Pocket players are simple creatures. They enjoy the simple pleasures in life, like reading, drinking a cup of coffee, and last,
Affliction.
My name is Gooms, or Goomba, and I've played Pocket for over like 800 games now. Some of you might know me as the Magic Carpet Graves dude. As lovely as that reputation is, I want to rewrite the name of Gooms from the Graves player into just the Deadlock player. I've been playing Deadlock for a long time now, and the very first character I picked was Aaron Fairfax. After that, I trained Ido into becoming the second best Pocket player NA, only behind myself, of course. By the time this video is over, hopefully I'll have you making plays that are so good you'll be questioning if you yourself are non-binary. This ability is easily the most overlooked ability in the kit because it's not as flashy as the other three moves, but it also is the most important. This ability launches a projectile that not only will damage your opponent, but it'll amp them for the next 15 seconds. Just to show you how much this ability actually matters, here are my damage breakdowns. I'm going to look through a bunch of random matches is what I'm going to do. They're all going to be ranked matches from the new patch. As you know, Pocket has changed a lot, so my damage breakdowns might look a little different than you actually expect them to look. Here we have a game where I did the most player damage in the lobby, so I feel like this is a decent example. Let's go to graphs, damage dealt by type. As we can see, Barrage comes in pretty close at second with 8,000 damage. Here we have another game where I did 47,000 player damage, most player damage in the lobby, but I lost this one, but let's see. Barrage actually did the most damage this game. Here we have a game where I did 74k player damage. Barrage, again, is the most damage out of all my abilities. This ability looks very simple and easy to use, and it is, but there's an issue with it in itself. Throwing barrages from a distance serves as a very good warning for someone who's paying attention to actually just start running away the other direction. 2, if you don't happen to land the first barrage, you don't get the movement slow, and this makes it 20 times harder to close the gap than it actually might seem, especially if you don't have your Warp Stone or Majestic Leap yet. Working around this will instantly make you 10 times stronger of a Pocket player, and the best way to use this is to keep momentum while pushing the barrages out. To close the gap between you and your enemy, you need to already be moving while you're using these barrages. For example, you could dash jump out while using the barrage, or Majestic Leap and the infamous barraging when you're way down. This is a very super diverse ability, and you will find infinitely more uses for this as you go along. Also, this is useless, but you can throw the barrages from inside the case. During team battles or even just in Lanephase, you want to get super into the habit of aiming your barrage at one player and tracking them. Picking the player who's most out in the open is usually ideal, and land as many of these as possible. If you turn your barrages into a game of Osu and try to hit 14 different players with each single one, you're gonna miss like at least half of your stacks every time. This is possibly Pocket's most iconic ability, where they launch a cloak out. This cloak deals massive damage to enemies, and if you press the button you used to cast it in the first place a second time, it teleports you to the location of where the cloak currently is. This is the ability that truly separates an experienced Pocket player from somebody who's simply never picked up the character a single time. No matter what tech I show you for this ability, somebody in the comments is going to have an entire way of using that I've never heard of or that you've never heard of. My best advice with this ability is simply just to be creative. My general advice, though, is to fight backwards. Remember that even though it does damage, it is your escape tool, and you should look to treat it as such even when doing damage to an enemy player. When it comes to using this ability in Lanephase, a lot of people like to throw it at the wave to clear it early. Personally, I'm not a fan of using it that way since it leaves you kind of vulnerable. I tend to make plays where I throw the cloak backwards in the same process as hitting the player. Or if I'm going to clear the wave, I still throw it backwards regardless. In Lanephase, I'm showing you to use your cloak like this because it builds a habit of how you use it for the rest of the game.
Need to plan this out. You would think someone could be interested. We can pick up the pace.
Pull back!
This out.
afflicted, 4. 4 afflicted.
Defend. Who knows what else this game needs to work?
After all those examples I showed you, you can see that I really can't explain how to use this ability because there's no definitive way and it's entirely up to you. But I do show you some of these examples to help you understand what is actually possible because there's a lot that's possible.
Thanks for the help. This needs to work.
Your humility is noted.
Coming. My guy's slow as hell.
Now the Enchanter's satchel is the OG iframe ability. You can escape into your suitcase and avoid all damage and cooldowns during the duration. Once you choose to escape from it, it'll do a wide AoE damage burst, which applies a fire rate and a movement slow to any enemies affected by it. This suitcase will let you avoid debuffs, and it can be used to dodge literally anything. The standing issue with this ability is that it takes more prediction than it does reaction. Why is this an issue, you might ask? Well, I say that because every other iframe in the game is instant. Mina has 3 iframes, all of them instant. Ivy has an iframe, instant. Mirage has an iframe, instant. They can react to things much more easily than a Pocket player can. So if you got used to using iframes on a different character, you're going to need to get used to using iframes on Pocket because it's a very different style of using it. Instead of playing a reactive playstyle, you got to play a more predictive playstyle. It's extremely common to combo this ability with your Affliction, but you gotta be very careful doing this. I know we all want the Explode for high damage, but when you're using this ability in any team fight, you really need to be aware of the enemy's ultimates. If Wraith or Mo and Krill have ults, or if Bebop Hook is currently off cooldown, you need to be extremely aware of the consequences that come with using this ability during the combo in the middle of a team fight. If you think you're going to get hard CC'd out of the suitcase, don't leave the suitcase, just teleport. I'm referencing this clip again because it's the only clip I actually have of me showing exactly what I've talked about. This has gotten me killed plenty of times, and if I had a clip of me dying to this, then I would show it to you, but of course I'm not just going to randomly clip me dying. In this clip, when I go for this Affliction, there is a Bebop right next to me who can easily hook me, and then somebody could slowing hex me, and then I don't get out here. On multiple occasions, I've literally had a Mo and Krill standing in front of me, and I wasn't really paying attention to the Mo and Krill, and then I got ulted straight out the suitcase. You're much better off just teleporting if you know that this is the case. A good thing you can do though is stall out your case for maximum duration. Oftentimes people will throw utility at it while watching it hoping to predict you, and if you just never leave, then they just waste it. Now this is a general warning that goes for both the satchel and the case. Everybody knows that you can finish off kills by throwing cloak and getting inside the satchel, and then once you teleport, both moves will deal damage at the same time. Please do not become over-reliant on this combo as it is low-key buns and it will get you killed. I am speaking from my own experience. I have relied on that combo for way too long, and I kid you not, for at least 200 games it's gotten me killed plenty of different times. There are good times to use this and there are very bad times to use this. For example, if the enemy is standing far away, in my experience, you should never do that unless you're 100% sure no one else is around. Using this combo puts both of your escape tools out of cooldown at the same time, and you can't even use the cloak to get out. If you're down satchel and cloak, you're essentially just the freest lick of all time, and somebody's gonna walk over and blow you up in 2.2 seconds. If you have items like Warp Stone, you can easily get over this by just launching yourself forward and then teleporting back while doing damage at the same time. This is what I mean when I said, fight backwards. Affliction is the infamous Pocket teamfight winning ability. Now this releases a giant AoE poison effect on everybody who's hit by it. The damage that comes from this ability is non-lethal, but it will literally put them on the number 1 HP if they get low enough. It's important to remember at T3 upgrade, this ability is 100% anti-heal, which is really the golden strength of it. So essentially, in a team fight, landing an Affliction on 3 or more players is usually instrumental to winning a late game fight, but if you manage to land it on all 6 players, then it's basically over.
We have a lot of good ults for this fight, like a lot. Not shit. I'm almost there.
6 afflicted, 6 afflicted. Very.
Oh. Why would you push me knowing you have ult? Knowing I have ult.
Using this ability comes with an insane amount of nuance, and it's not all as one-dimensional as it may seem. You're gonna have to use your brain a lot when you use this ability. It recently got its walker damage cut by 50%, but I still think it's good for securing walkers if you have time to backdoor. Knowing if you should use this in a 1v1 fight though is really the iffy part of most people's decision making. In my experience, sometimes you have to solo afflict if you want to survive, because being dead can be worse than anything. Yes, if the Shiv is running me down and I can't do anything else besides spend this ult to get him off of me, I'm gonna do it. Generally, you should really avoid using this ult as long as there's even just a minute between you and the rift spawning, because you need this ability for big team fights. Now, 100% anti-heal is a very powerful ability, and for a very long time I went about using Affliction the wrong way myself. I was always targeting the players with the highest amount of HP, you know, the tanks like Abrams and Mo and Krill, because I just knew that if I hit them with Affliction, they would become the easiest characters in the game to kill. And while this was true, it wasn't actually winning me any fights. So to stop you from falling into the same trap I did, think of this not as an anti-tank ability, but more of an anti-carry ability. What I mean by this is if 7 is constantly pressing 4 and winning every fight using Unstop Infuser and is practically invincible, you can turn the entire team fight around if you manage to ult the 7 before he presses his ult, or even if you just majestically up there and press Affliction and you have the M1 heroes to take him down. But this goes for anybody who's winning the game. They don't have to be a Wraith or a 7 or a Victor running down the lobby. It can literally just be a Shiv who's too tanky and immortal to die and is kill confirming your entire team. You just need to use your judgment to know who to shut down. If the Affliction lands and you don't get a kill from it, worst case scenario, the carry who was winning all those fights, even if they don't die, can't really fight for the next 15 seconds or however long you build this ability up to last. In general, if you really need to figure out who's the problem, hold tab, look at people's KDs, and that's usually enough to tell you. You've got two main objectives when using this ability in a team fight. Hit as many players with it as possible, and hit the player that's winning the enemy team the game. Now, I must warn you that this ability is not the same thing that it used to be before these nerfs, and I'm pretty sure these are going to get reverted. Not fully, but we'll probably get like 3% of the damage back. I feel like unless you max it out and have escalating, it really doesn't do any damage anymore. I wish I was exaggerating, but using Affliction on the first earn fight will feel like it has zero impact. Even with Barrage stacks, it only does about 300 damage, and it's so much less powerful than it used to be. Pocket's lane phase is forever changing, and it cannot be boiled down to one exact plan. In general, Bebop might just sit under a bridge and try to hook you the entire lane phase. Calico players tend to go missing completely and then randomly show up with Claw Strike. McGinnis will always just be lame, and Lash players are looking for those high damage slams. Now this is a special case where the game is paused and I see the Lash looking at me. I was already watching him, so I knew he was going to do this, but I took even more advantage of this by telling my duo what to do in the lane.
Maybe too.
I dodged it. Hurt. So yeah,
Wow, okay.
Pocket, though, will always need to change playstyle depending on the characters, because this is one of the few heroes in the game that really has answers to like 90% of the issues they encounter. If my enemy lane is like Paige and then Haze, I'm probably just going to focus on exploding somebody because they both die so fast. If my enemy lane is Yamato Bebop, then I'm probably unlocking Satchel first, and I'm just going to iframe out the bombs and all the power slashes. If my enemy lane is Drifter and Venator, then I'm probably going to sit behind my tower at all lane phase like a wuss. The point that I'm trying to make is that you really need to adapt your ability usage to the situation that you're currently in. Yes, the plan of damage and escape is always in effect, but the way you do it has to change heavily. And when you're playing lane phase, you should really be building a habit of fighting backwards, because those habits will build into your mid game and late game. Pocket is oftentimes considered an assassin, and I don't think Pocket's assassin potential is anywhere near as strong as a Calico or Haze, but Pocket's very strong in the mid game and has a lot of options for disrupting the enemy team. What my mid game tends to look like when I'm playing Pocket is something like this. Get cold front and cultist as fast as I can. If I'm behind from a bad lane, then I'll go ahead and farm for about 2 or 3 minutes because Pocket is very quick at doing this. I do not hold down or grid side lanes. If you're in a comp where you don't have a dedicated carry hero, sometimes it might actually be the best thing to do though. I pick a target and I ruin their day. I look at an enemy and I take notes of who's side laning. If I see the enemy 7 or Wraith is sitting on the side lane, or even a Victor is playing inside the yellow lane, I will walk up there, wait for them to start doing a camp, maybe a Cinder overextend slightly, and then I will kill them. I'm constantly looking to steal the enemy camps, and I do look to kill anyone who's walking off alone, especially if I'm ahead. I do all these things practically like it's a routine until 25 minutes, and that's when I start to shift my playstyle to be more focused on winning team battles. If you haven't played Pocket before, you probably already know what the late game plan is just from playing against this character. Fly in, drop 1500 damage into a fight, and then get out. Pocket's exploitable weakness is that they have like no staying power in a fight, which is why good Pockets play to get out as soon as possible. Now I could try to explain the game plan to you with words, but if I just simply showed it to you, it would make 10 times more sense. Now, executing the big flashy plays looks very simple in theory, but it's a little bit more complicated in practice. That's why I have these 3 commandments that all Pocket players should be following when they're going for these giant teamfight ults. First, you always need both satchel and cloak off cooldown. Even just having one of these on cooldown while you're going for one of these plays makes your risk of dying go up like 90%. Second, you need to know your targets. Pocket's damage is good for assassinating squishy heroes, and though bursting a Victor might hurt, it doesn't actually serve any purpose because they'll usually just heal it back unless you're going to use your ult. Third, you need to have pressure from your teammates. Yes, Pocket can escape, but Pocket is not a frontline. Going in first can usually get you hit with like 50 slowing hexes before and after you use Case and Dispel magic. Now, I didn't really know if I was going to make a section on the mid-boss or not, but I feel like it's worth it because of how good Pocket's mid-boss contest actually is. I'm going to keep this brief, but it's a very simple game plan. There's 2 main things you need to focus on. Affliction in the pit, and casing on the rejuve. This clip should essentially just explain exactly both of those. You'll see that I afflict the team, and then I also cased on the rejuve, and I was able to parry my way out. There are times when casing on the rejuve is a very bad idea. For example, if the enemy team has Dynamo ult, then you should probably just be looking to try and kill the Dynamo ult instead. This is going to be a little bit different. I actually have 2 builds to show you. This is Pocket-tocket-tuah 3. There's been a few Pocket-tocket-tuahs. This one is just one I made that suits the way I play the game very easily. It's very standard Pocket. You'd find all these items in every other build. It's pretty left to right-ish. It gives you your options for things you want to use and don't want to use, but it's not too complicated. Now, my second build is something I made after the patch, and I call it Spirit Glocket. There is a lot of differences between this build and the last build, even though the items look similar. Now, you might see Quicksilver reload and think I'm a troll, and you're fair to think that, but I'll tell you why. It's because with this build, my AP order actually goes max cloak first, and then instead of max affliction like you normally would see, I'm going max barrage. Max Barrage means you have a lot more gank power and you do a lot more damage when you're pushing people as long as you land these. And it also stacks your spirit damage with Quicksilver reload, which is the best part in my opinion. So if I buy Quicksilver and I buy Fire Rate, which I always do, and I have my cultist buff, you can imagine that when I land my barrages on somebody and I'm gunfighting, it's pretty hard to out damage what I'm going to end up doing to them. Now, this is a very small demonstration where I don't have any spikes, no boons, no anything, but during the mid game and even during the late game, I'm telling you that this will fry people. I can outgun damage a Wraith when I just buy this item. It's actually kind of crazy. I would say if you want to play a gank heavy style, this is probably the build that you should go to, but I'm not worried about Affliction whatsoever in this build until at least like 30 minutes. I would say you can probably build the majority of these items before 20 minutes, 18k. If you're having a good game, you'll be there before 20 minutes. Once you get Spirit Burn and Duration, you're like 100% fully online to do whatever you want. It's got all the same counter items and whatever. It's less convoluted than the other build though.